Hello and welcome to My Personal Opinion. I'm JM and these certainly are my opinions. Welcome to the show. Today I want to talk about the benefits of OCD a little bit more. I've talked about a little bit in a previous video, but I thought I'd have a chat about kind of some of the benefits that you can have to OCD. And one of the topics that I kind of hesitate to talk about, but I think is somewhat relevant, is the Titanic submarine, the expedition that went down, and ultimately, sadly, many people lost their lives. Very tragic scenario, and I'm not here to put any of them down, but I will say, from an OCD perspective, there's no way on God's green earth that I would ever get on board something that should be certified but wasn't certified. Um, my brain would obsess 1,000% on that. If there's a certification system that's in place, and most submarines that would go under usually have some sort of certification, I definitely think that's something that should occur. So, some people may say, well, you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to risk anything. You're not going to have some of the exciting moments. But, whether it's a untested airplane or an untested submarine, trust me, I like airplanes. I did some private pilot work until diabetes actually knocked me out of the running. And I love submarines. I think they're fascinating, but I obsess over some of those details sometimes pretty intently. In other areas, for example, being in IT, I manage servers, and I've been in server rooms where one fan sounds off, and I hear that fan, and I hear it making noises that sounds like a bad bearing or sounds like it's just not quite right. I think the reality is that I've been in so many scenarios where I've been proven correct that yes, my obsession to some people are like, it's just a fan, it's just a noise. And then a week later, we get a server alarm that says the fan has either died or froze or stopped functioning correctly, and the server overheats. So, somebody did once ask me whether or not I feel that getting rid of OCD would be an advantage, and I'm not 100% sure. I do think it would have saved me in a lot of situations out there, and I definitely see times that it's valuable in my career. It's valuable in some of my decision making, but then it brings a lot of disadvantages too. But this being focused on the advantages, there's a lot of times where I've been in situations where I obsess over something like that, and I have near misses. It's even been something I've seen in employment. There's several times that as an OCD person, I see some little signs that really, kind of set me off. Whether or not, for example, at one point, we were being bought by a company, and I was part of an IT department, and there was just some suspicious activities. For example, I was giving information to the new IT department that I was supposed to become a part of, but I wasn't getting any information back. And that kind of worried me a bit. I was like, why is this a one-way street? Why are they not so interested in what we were doing on the IT side from our position? And, I ended up looking at it and saying, wow, this there's something happening, something going wrong. I don't like this. And I ended up finding a job elsewhere. And ironically, 2 weeks after I found another job, the company shut down that entire IT department and got rid of the company I was part of. They just wanted some of the assets and to take those assets and sell them independently with their own departments. So, it's funny to be in a situation where you have an affliction like obsessive compulsive disorder, and you go, man, there are moments I really want to get rid of this, but there are also moments it's been a benefit. I think a lot of engineers have some OCD, and that's kind of why I wonder how I would have been if I were an engineer on that submarine project. I'd probably been one of those that's screaming, yelling, and shaking my fist, going, I'm uncomfortable with the fact we're going to take people. I believe one was a father and a son, which terrifies me on a whole nother level, and I'll not get into that, but um, I just, how would you even be okay sending something down like that that's untested, that didn't go through the proper channels, that didn't get through the right certifications? There's just no way. And as a person who looks at it from a, would I want to go down to see the Titanic? Absolutely. That'd be fantastic. I'd love the ocean. I would love to go down in a submarine and see the Titanic up close like that. But there's just, I would have, even if I had initially agreed, I would have probably backed out eventually because my mind would have just constantly been back and forth on that. So I don't know. I definitely look at that situation, and I'm thankful that I have a brain that will fight those kinds of things. But like I said, I also do have moments where I stop and I wonder whether I'm missing out on some things because I do obsess on those kinds of issues. Um, One issue I kind of give a little bit of example of is I've been in airplanes where I have a comfort level of the way the engine noises sound, and in particular models of airplane, and been in situations where something doesn't sound right and I've panicked and it's like, oh my gosh, but eventually nothing happened. So definitely an interesting trip if you've never really experienced OCD, or if you're not somebody who suffers from OCD. It's very difficult to explain what it's like because nobody wants to sit there and ruminate on the negative. Or I've heard the term catastrophize, where you think of the worst case scenarios, and definitely, I don't know. It's definitely, like I said, it's one of those things that I'm both thankful and horrified that I deal with this OCD stuff. And I do 100% think that there are cases where it has been to my advantage to not obsess over a lot of ideas or thoughts. Um, I would even bring it into medical. There's cases where I obsessed over something, and people say, don't look at Dr. Google, don't obsess over Dr. Google. And I found out that I actually had diabetes because of my obsessions. And, there was a lot of stuff I was reading on the internet that said, yeah, those are signs of diabetes. And I started panicking, and I fought it a little bit. And then I said, no, I got to get an answer. And I went to my doctor, and they pricked my finger and they tested my blood, and my blood was like 320. So definitely that doctor looked, sorry, you were correct. You have diabetes. So um, definitely an interesting world to live in, and a world where having OCD, again, has been so beneficial in some areas and so problematic in others. Um, so, and that's one of the reasons this channel exists. I really want to use OCD to my advantage. That's why one of the major pieces I want to contribute is reviews, and I'll be doing some more reviews in the future. But they'll be from an OCD perspective. Some of the things that I may have a hard time with are not things that the average person will, but definitely I might give you a perspective to say, I didn't think of that, which could be both an advantage and a disadvantage. But that's kind of where I'm at, and I thought I'd have a little kind of talk about having OCD and pluses and minuses, and some of that's because there are others that suffer through this. Matter of fact, one of the things that is fascinating me as I've talked to more folks about OCD is the amount of people that stop and say, wait a minute, is that something I have? Now understand, this channel is all about my experiences. I'm not attempting at all in any case or any shape or any form to help diagnose anything. But certainly, looking at my experiences, and if you say, that's interesting, that gives you an opportunity to go talk to your mental health professionals to say, hey, do I have this? And give you an opportunity to maybe find out that you end up with OCD. And I also want to say that, if you do have OCD, it's not all bad. There are some cases and ideas that might actually work in your favor. And I've noticed that everybody I've come across that still thinks that they have OCD has seen that same thing. They see the positives and the negatives of having it. So anyway, hopefully that's some fun thoughts to think about, to ruminate over. And either if you have somebody with OCD that you know, or if you have OCD yourself, or maybe think you might, know that it's okay. It's okay to think of this in a more complicated manner and think of this in multiple different angles, so that you can be okay with it. Because I think it's okay to be okay with having something like OCD. So those are my thoughts, and I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great day and stay safe. And remember, mental health is a good thing to know about, and it shouldn't ever be something to be ashamed of. Everybody should be good with getting the help that they need, but also being okay with being neurodivergent, being divergent in the way your brain thinks. Thank you much. Thanks again for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon so you can be alerted to upcoming videos. This is JM of My Personal Opinion, signing off.